Hi, Women in Tech attendees. My name is Taryn Southern. I'm a filmmaker, futurist, and Good Trust advisor. And in honor of Women's History Month, I'm here today with Margot Georgiadis to discuss the role of women and digital legacy. A list of some of Margot's very impressive former roles include President and CEO of Ancestry.com, President of Americas at Google, CEO of Mattel, COO of Groupon, and CMO of Discover Financial Services. Hi, Margot. Thank you so much for joining me for a conversation about women and digital legacy. You have held many incredible leadership roles at some of the world's biggest tech companies, so I'm very excited to hear your perspective on this issue. So first, how would you define digital legacy, and why is protecting it important?
Well, thanks, Taryn. It's great to be here. For me, I think digital legacy has become a really important topic because we all live our lives online today. And COVID has certainly proven that at an even greater level. It's how we connect, we communicate, we store memories, we shop, we bank. And yet, as we plan for the inevitable, the unthinkable in our lives, we still mainly focus on physical and financial assets versus how we're truly living our lives today. And so I think that's why this has become such an important conversation.
And was this something that you had spent any time thinking about before taking on your past leadership role at Ancestry? And how did that job change your views on digital legacy?
It was definitely something I thought about, during all those years at Google, when you think about, all the different assets you create, and certainly places like Gmail is where you have so many conversations in your life, as well as other platforms. But certainly at Ancestry, I saw firsthand the power of democratizing that access to your personal discovery and offering a platform that enables everyone to preserve and share their family story for generations. Our subscribers were not just short-term. Vast majority of our members' relationships lasted a lifetime and then handed off across generation. And so you see that power in being able to have that true shared experience. Certainly in the case of Ancestry, that understanding of where and who we come from, both the triumphs and the tragedies in their lives, it gives people such deep meaning. And so just that photo, that story, and there's so much more that's possible today in a digital world.
From your point of view, what do you think the key issues really are in the legacy space that the average everyday person should be aware of? And that could be anything from security to privacy, access.
Yeah, I think it's across the board. I think today, and there's been a bunch of surveys on this, a Good Trusted one recently, I think something like 90% of respondents indicated that they had absolutely no idea what happens to their digital assets when they pass away. Yeah. And certainly, I think more recently, people have become much more aware of this. I think with COVID and people all of a sudden facing death rates amongst their loved ones that they had never expected, were not prepared for, and then realizing, wait, how do I get access, to their address book, to their different accounts? How do I let people know this has happened to them? How would I actually do a post of remembrance, a last goodbye, to all those connections? And so many people have built relationships through different platforms like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and other places. And so that inability to be able to take action there, I think, is really material, and let people know, particularly at a time when you can't travel or get together, that need for communicating over these platforms and having access to those becomes really important.
And I think a lot of people don't even realize until they have a loved one pass away unexpectedly how challenging it can be to actually get access to these accounts that they need access to. In some cases, you need court orders.
You need court orders, and it's a different process for every single account. And in many cases, you may not even be aware of what accounts they actually have. And so, this has become, I think, a really important issue for people as our lives, our physical lives, and our digital lives are equal in size. How do we think about really a thoughtful process, If we think about when, having done a will myself, we have 3 children and a big family. And I think about all those family assets that were passed down over the generations that I want to pass down to my kids. And I've gone through this copious process of how would I do that? And then I think about, oh my gosh, all my photos now are in all these albums and they're online. And all these memories and these group chats that we have, as a family in different places. And I would want those to be preserved, all those moments that we celebrated together, to be accessible and shareable for that next generation. And so we really need some tools that help us be able to do that for our futures.
100%. And as generations get older, we're going to just see the plethora of digital assets increase in size, given how long, we've been on social media and basically activating a digital presence.
We all live our lives online. I think about I can see that generationally with my own kids. When they were younger, I did a photo album for each of our 3 kids, and I have all those. But all of a sudden, as we went online, now it's all about the digital albums, and every single trip we've taken, all the family memories are all captured in digital footprints.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not just that, but the documents, the letters. We don't send letters physically, right? Sometimes we still will send cards at the holidays or things like that. But so much of our emotional connection with people is happening through emails and other reflections that happen in other platforms.
And in fact, according to the latest Good Trust survey, respondents said that photos and videos and written communication were their most important digital assets that they wanted protected. So in thinking about your own digital legacy and assets, what is most important to you?
Well, I definitely, when I think about my digital legacy, it really starts with the photos and the videos. I think for me, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and those moments of shared experience. And as I just shared, I'm really big on creating an album from everything we do together as a family, every place we go, the big moments, and then I share them. And not just with my parents, but especially during this time where we were often separated and not everyone to get together across generations, or my husband's from Europe. And so be able to constantly share with his family has been such a gift. And so that to me would be the number one priority. I think the second close behind that is documents. I think we all store, I'm a big cloud user. And so my emails, my speeches, my reflections, my notes that I send to my kids are all, in my documents, and they're all in my email. And so I want that to be able to be accessed by my kids should they want to go back and reflect on some of that. And then I think it's the shared moments with others, those community-based experiences that we have, and finding a way to preserve some of those shared moments. I think it really helps bring alive people's personalities and their interests and who they were.
And we'll talk a little bit more about sort of what the possibilities are in the digital legacy preservation space in a minute. But I do want to switch gears, given that it is Women's History Month, to talk a little bit about women and how they relate to this issue. So the World Health Organization reported that women on average live about 6 to 8 years longer than men, of course, depending on, what country you're in. How do you see that alone playing a role in the conversation around digital legacy?
Well, a very important one. Well, clearly, the vast majority of caregivers are also female, and that caregiver, right, is a 49, 50-year-old woman who works from the home and provides 20 hours a week of unpaid care to her mother. And so women are very much in the position of being the preservers of those memories. We see on Ancestry, right, the majority of our users were women who were creating and preserving those family stories. And I think that is going to happen in all the aspects of our digital lives. So I think it's really important to provide those tools for each individual, but also for those caregivers to ensure that we're able to protect that digital legacy.
For me personally, I was the one that was building out my family tree when I was maybe 10, 11. I expressed a deep interest in it. And of course, everyone, a school project, but I really I took it upon myself. For some reason, I found it really interesting. And I was always put in touch with a female family member who'd been collecting the data or information around their nuclear families. And that was really how I was able to create this extended family tree.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I do think there's been a lot of, research that shows that men tend to think about their wealth, or what, they pass on is the financial legacy. And I think that's particularly true. But in the Good Trust survey, I think we're seeing that women, more than men, really think about in that planning for the death of a loved one. What are the stories? What's the memories? What are the thoughts that you want to preserve about that person at a human level? I don't know if you've been to a funeral lately, but one of the things I always find it to be the most powerful is a video montage or a picture montage or the ability to share digitally. We had a great product at Ancestry called We Remember, where people could go online and actually crowdsource memories, pictures, stories, all kinds of things about a person. And so when you think about that, I think that's such a natural way for us all to communicate with each other, that wanting to find a way to preserve and protect and share that for the next generation is just so important.
And just to have an easier tool for honoring the people that were in our lives. I've lost several friends this year for different reasons, but all rather unexpected. And I know that just the collection of memories from the community is a massive task. And so it's exciting that Good Trust is offering a solution to that.
So agree. I mean, what I think Good Trust really provides is that integrated tool. Because when we think about all the different aspects of our lives and how they're lived online, what I think is really amazing about the tool is it enables you to think about who is that person that you want to be the person that collects and organizes that. And so it doesn't just say there's a single person that touches every aspect of of your life. There may be different people that you want to steward those different parts of your personal digital legacy. And I think giving people that sense of control and optionality to really share that and pass it down and bring people into that part of their lives is, I think, a really magical part of this tool.
Mm-hmm. And as technology develops, the opportunities will just become increasingly interesting and complicated. So on that, I wanted to ask you, where do you see digital legacy going in the future? And how will new tools like artificial intelligence steer the conversation?
Well, I think it's incredible what's going to be possible. I'm actually working with a company that is actually taking conversations and enabling us to create a hologram of a person that can actually have a conversation. I mean, I think back, we were fortunate to have my grandmother living with us for 10 years, and my children really felt like they got that experience of the walking history textbook. You know, she was born in 1912 and she lived up till she was 100. And so what she saw in her lifetime was truly extraordinary. And so our kids just, developed that love of shared storytelling. But so many people don't have access to that with their grandparents. And I think what a powerful thing to be able to have a conversation. I still wish I could have a conversation with my grandmother. And if we had been able to record her and create that ability to pass that legacy down, I think that would be a truly, truly magical experience.
100%. I think about my grandfather and just preserving what it was like to be in World War II, and these sort of cultural events that younger generations will have no access to be able to preserve that in that sort of personalized way with a hologram or an AI clone of some sort is really interesting. What do you think the adoption will look like? The adoption curve will look like on these kinds of things? There seems to be some resistance in older generations to some of these technologies, even though I think the intent behind it is one of connection and preservation.
I actually think as we make these actually really easy for people to access, my sense is there doesn't have to be a generational break. I think often the older generation isn't familiar with how to use the technology, so that's where the younger and the older generation can connect and really provide that. That was something at Ancestry that for us was so meaningful. Family history is one of the ways that you can truly connect across all generations on a common playing field. I think it's the place where technology can be an enabler to allowing that magic to happen through those shared experiences. And so I think as we move these technologies to a simple mobile device or a simple laptop device where you just need to press and talk.
Right.
I
Just
think a
removing
lot
the
of
friction.
just remove the friction and make it possible. And all the magic can then happen behind the scenes. And that's really what happens with new products like this story file product that I was mentioning earlier. You just download their app, you speak right into the camera, and they do all the work. And so it enables anyone to create that family legacy. And I think it's really magical.
It definitely helps anyone going through that situation tremendously. So as an investor and advisor to Good Trust, what product developments are you most excited about coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, so as I shared earlier, I mean, Good Trust gives every person, and we all don't really think about all these things that we need to do to protect our digital legacy. And they give everyone a step-by-step approach of how to do that legacy planning. They give us an ability to actually leave those last goodbye messages through email, social media, video, storage, a way to put all those personal notes and documents into one place to make sure that however you want to, leave your life, you're able to do it. They're also going to be integrating in other really easy to use tools like legal wills and medical directives, which again is another one of these aspects. How do we provide people one integrated place where everything that connects to their personal legacy, they can put into one place and have that easily connecting to the people who are most important in their lives that they want to carry out those wishes. And I think it's just really fantastic that, Rickard and the team had the vision, frankly, for going through their own personal experience of having to try to work through this. I think out of difficult experiences and seeing things that don't work in the world, that's where so much of digital innovation happens, is how do we think about how to use technology to transform the way we can integrate, connect, and communicate, both today and now we're creating this opportunity to keep that legacy into the future.
So the women in tech community want to know what advice you would give to younger women who are currently considering a career in tech or STEM.
My advice for women or girls interested in pursuing a career in STEM is to really focus on the fact that you have all the tools in the palm of your hand to make the world a better place. And I think that access to be able to reimagine every aspect of our lives to make it better for everyone is such an incredible privilege. And I think women really have the level of empathy to think about how do we design products that create things that are more democratized, more accessible, more useful for everyone. And that's what I'm really excited about, is encouraging women to become part of that solution space. And as you embark on these careers, don't see boundaries. The creativity that's possible and the way to unleash whatever your imagination takes you to, I think, is unprecedented. And I think sometimes, especially girls coming up the ranks, they get intimidated. Oh, I'm not really that great at math and science, but that's actually not true. When you think about coding is magical, coding is structured, it's logical, it's something that anyone can do. And so take the courage to push yourself to really break through some of those boundaries and find other people that you can collaborate with so that you can see how fun it is to be part of that reimagination.
I absolutely love that. And I love that you brought empathy into this. And I think it's also the case that, we need to encourage women to bring that empathy into these rooms, to not shy away from it, because it is one of their strongest assets in building the future of tomorrow.
I completely agree. When we think about the solutions that we love most in our lives, they're solutions where the technology just fades into the background and we're able to just get on with our lives. And as we think about what technology is here for, it's to make things simpler and easier and more accessible for everyone. And I think that's something that uniquely, as women, we are deeply focused on, right, our human realities and what are those tools. And so by ensuring that, half our population is actively engaged in these solutions, as I said earlier, I think we have the opportunity to ensure that we create better solutions for how we work and how we live, how we support women in the workforce, right? We're seeing a moment in time where unprecedented numbers of women have left the workforce during COVID to care for their family members, their children, et cetera. Well, how do we reimagine a world where they can re-enter a workforce and create jobs and opportunities that create more access for everyone? And so those are some of the things that when we think about technology enabling work from home, enabling flexibility, enabling asynchronous working, enabling people to communicate and create in new and different ways, hopefully we can also make work better for everyone.
And you've spoken a little bit about this already with the example of reducing friction. What are the other challenges that good trust or the legacy space in general need to overcome?
No, there are many. I think good trust is a wonderful help in structuring people if they plan ahead. I think good trust also provides a service for people that if you didn't do that planning ahead, you still need that assistance to actually go and work with every single one of those companies to help get control of your family members' digital assets. And I think that's an incredible service that they provide for people to be able to go to one place and to have one group that will personally give you that concierge through that entire experience. And I think that's very important because not everyone may plan ahead. So then what do you do if you're faced with that situation of, as you said, that loved one that passes away unexpectedly, and then you have to come behind it and really organize after the fact. And so I think the fact that they're approaching this from both sides really ensures that they can meet the full range of needs that you can imagine someone having in that moment.
It's a huge value add. And I'm excited to announce that as part of Women's History Month, Good Trust is giving free premium accounts to any woman who signs up this month, which is a huge value add. I wanted to sort of close this with asking you about women's role, particularly in this. You've been a big champion of organizations that inspire women to pursue careers in STEM and advance the next generation of women leaders. How do you think that women in leadership or STEM roles help advance this conversation that we've had today?
Well, I think the most important thing is that the world, as we just talked about, is being rewritten with code. And every aspect of our life is being transformed with technology. And so it's so important that we encourage women to go into these careers, both STEM and technology roles, so that we ensure that the solutions that are being developed meet the needs, right? Just in this case of Good Trust, we talked about the fact that women will be the vast majority of the people that will be creating often these legacies and collecting and managing this set of activities. And so it's very important that women are involved in the creation, the design of how these products work. And so for me personally, that's why I've been such a big advocate, because if we don't have women part of the creation process, part of the imagination of what these new solutions are that we need, we won't actually create solutions that work for half the people that will be using them. And in cases like this, the vast majority of the people that will be driving the work.
Thank you so much for your voice and leadership in this space, and specifically with Good Trust.
Well, thank you for having me, Taryn. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Margot.